in the dark, I play my dreams. Permaculture flows like sweet streams. I'm the daddy with the know-how seed. Green in the world like it's meant to be. Permaculture, P-I-M-P, I'm the king. Wrap it up in everything. Bring a change, making it last.
Welcome to episode 353 of the Permaculture Pimpcast, where PIMP stands for Permaculture is My Passion. The only Pimpcast on planet Earth where we discuss permaculture, preparedness, practical living, and sometimes prostitutes. Oh yeah, good to be here with y'all this evening. It seems like it's been forever and a day, but it was only since last week, I believe. This episode, as always, brought to you by Hickory Ridge Soap from 2oldcrowshomestead.com. Bam! Turn that simp into a pimp. Okay, got my BAMs backwards, but I think you get it. Soil saviors. Yeah. Hey, Denise, don't let me forget. When I come over in a couple of days or whenever that guy's done with the thing, don't let me forget. I need to bring one of those boxes for y'all. But anyway, soil saviors. That stuff is a big part of how we were able to clean up a project here in North Carolina when all that toxic mess was out there. So we have it down below. We have it at the website. You go check it out and we'll get you squared away. Now, it's not cheap, but honestly, if you think about it, if you're using it in your garden spaces, which I think is the primary place you ought to be doing it, anywhere you're growing food, you're not doing it over 20 acres, okay? I mean, most people, if you add up everything, they might have, in most gardens, they might, at the very most, in most cases, might have a third of an acre, and that's a big garden. That's a very big garden. So if you're wanting to remediate those places, they will get you squared away. We'll have a link at the website we got down below and one on the screen. So a little programming note right off the bat. As you probably know, we're on the Permaculture Pimpcast YouTube channel. And the reason for that, the reason we're not simulcasting, typically we do it on William's channel, we do it on Rumble, we do it at the Permaculture Pimpcast, and then we do it on Pasture's farm. Yeah, see, that's a lot of P's for one guy to try to pronounce. There's another P. But anyway, they hit us with our second strike. Actually, it was our third strike, but we were 90 days behind the last one we got, so they put us back to 2 strikes. So they're looking for anything. And once again, if you're unaware, they gave us that second strike. I kid you not, because we had a guest on from Cultivate Elevate that had the audacity to talk about the benefits of eating seeds and what that could do for you. How about that? Well, I want to give a hat tip, as always, to Denise over at Renewed Homestead for moderating our chat. You know the deal, y'all. Don't start no SH and there won't be no IT. William is not going to be with us today. He is tied up with so many things right now. So he may be back with us on Thursday. Well, look, everybody who does this work, you are covered up this time of year and you know what I'm talking about. So it is what it is. But I'll have my backup co-host in here in a minute. So she's out there putting up the Livestock Guardian dog, and she's off and running. I'm going to save the real hot stuff to get her in here, and she's probably going to go full-fledged Shaniqua when she hears what I'm about to say. But I'll come to that in a minute. Hey, y'all, let me just put this out also. Please do not, under any circumstances, show up to Billy's Jungle Palace of Love unannounced. I promise you. Look, I'm a very nice guy. Most people would probably say that. But if you want to see the worst in me, show up to my home unannounced and uninvited. Yeah. You will probably not get the welcome. No, not probably. You're going to get a welcome you didn't expect. And it ain't going to be welcome. Look, I don't show up to anybody else's house, and I don't want you, even, if I go over my best friend's house, I at least say, hey, I'm on the way. But if you think you're just going to show up here and you're going to get the king's treatment, I got news for you, Jack. It ain't going to happen. So please show a little respect. I mean, yeah, we get a lot of people that drive by and stuff like that. I'm not out handing out my address. It's not like we're impossible to find. But do not cross that gate. Do not cross that gate. Otherwise, I will see you as an enemy. Okay, I'm just gonna put that out there. So I'm I'm not the first one this has happened to. I know it's happened to a lot of other people I know that work on YouTube, and they've been very polite about it. I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy. You're not going to show up to my place unannounced, especially with the enemies I have in this world, and for me to not think or assume that you're one of those enemies. So, yeah, I think I said that 3 times, so I won't say it again. Anyway, I want to give a hat tip to everybody in the chat right now. Linda, finally the right timing. Blessings from Arizona. And yes, Michelle's Comfrey's up and happy finally. Thank you so much for coming in, Linda. Zeke Anderson, yeah, finally going to catch one live up here in Michigan. Man, I heard you guys are getting really, really covered up with a lot of the trails that are happening up there. In fact, I'm going to wait till Michelle's here before I talk about this latest statement that came out. I think, yeah, it was just 4 hours ago, I think, from Lee Zeldin. At least that's where it was on, or at least when I found it. So anyway, it's crazy. I'm not going to tease it anymore. I'm just going to let you know. All right. So we were doing a little bit of traveling this weekend, had to knock out some things, and some things I talk about, some things I don't. I mean, some things have to be private, especially with the nature of the travel. So, oh, and by the way, I want to give a hat tip to everybody else in here, Providence Acres, Jens, all the other folks out there. So anyway, did a little bit of traveling this weekend, but on the way through, we stopped at that Bigfoot festival that they had, here in North Carolina. Let's see here. How do I say this politely? I don't believe there is a really, really polite way of saying this, but look, y'all, I'm starting to think that any festival that's for free is worth exactly what you didn't pay for it. Man, I'm thinking, okay, well, where's the stage at? Let's go hear what these guys got to say. I'm like, okay, I'm at best maybe agnostic about Bigfoot. I mean, people are seeing something. I don't know what it is. I haven't seen one, but I was rooming with a guy in Kentucky one time, and this was one of the creepiest houses I've ever stayed in. It was 200 years old, and it was in the middle of a cornfield, and we were working nights at this Corvette plant. Both of us were foremen out there, and it was up in Kentucky. Like I said, we get back, and usually, I mean, this guy drove like one of those muscle cars or whatever, so he would always beat me back. And of course, I'm driving my truck. I get back there, and it seemed odd that he was still in his car with the lights on. I'm like, oh man, what's going on here? So it's about 3, 4 in the morning, somewhere thereabout, and he's like, I can see, he turns on his interior light, and I can see him kind of like waving over to me. I'm like, well, what's going on here? So I kind of get out of the truck, walk over, and being, I want to say it was about 3:30, maybe 4 in the morning. It must have been somewhere about that time. Anyway, I get over there, and he's like, hey man, did you see that? I'm like, see what? He says, dude, he says, man, I don't know what it was. I know it wasn't a bear, but this thing had to be 8 feet tall. And I'm like, which way did it go? He said, the way we go in the house around back, because the key they gave us, you couldn't go in the front door. You had to go around back. And I'm like, okay, so let me go back in and get my gun. Like that's going to do anything on an 8-foot Bigfoot. I don't know. I've never seen one, but anyway, a lot of people apparently have, and I'm not going to dismiss. Maybe they have. I mean, maybe there's something out there. Maybe, I don't know. Is it a cryptid? Whatever it is. But man, that was very interesting. You probably haven't vetted all of your speakers at the conference when you allocate 30 minutes for your final speaker. They get up there for about 7 minutes and said, I ran out of something to say. Anybody got any questions? And I mean, the guy, I felt bad for him. I really did, because you could tell this guy was as nervous as R. Kelly standing outside of a daycare. But yeah, that was a very interesting gathering. I'll say that, man. And believe me, I've been to 3 county fairs and a hog calling, and this one definitely was about as strange as the UFO festival that Michelle and I went to like about a month ago. We just kind of stopped in. Really, I mean, it was more like a flea market. I was thoroughly unimpressed. So, not meaning any harm or any ill will towards anybody out there, but yeah, these festivals, man, if you want to do some people watching, you will be entertained. I promise you that. So some other things we got done this weekend. Made a little visit to my man, Steve, the blacksmith over at the Biltmore. And Steve was, Well, I don't know how much I can say, but anyway, I wanted to talk to Steve about some possible work that he might be interested in. Some of the things that we've talked about on this program, I'm not even sure I could say it, to be honest with you folks, without getting kicked off again. So anyway, I wanted to talk to him. Beautiful family, beautiful everything they got going on. Wonderful place. So, it was good to see them for a little bit, and also handled a lot of business this weekend. So that enabled, unfortunately, I was able to see, unable to see the crew at Two Old Crows Homestead. They were rolling through here, went to the Biltmore. And, speaking of the Biltmore, they got this exhibit over there, and it's over King Tut. Okay. And they're using that to try to get people in. Now, Steve works at the Biltmore, and apparently their attendance is down 50% since last year. And they're doing anything to try to get folks in the doors right now. And I'll be honest with you, all summer long, Asheville has been a shadow of its former self. I know a lot of business owners around there, and they're all telling me they don't know how they're going to make it. Unless people come back to watch the leaves, they don't know how they're going to stay in business. And it's an awful shame. Even though we're told everything's booming right now, well, I'm pretty sure a lot of you folks in the chat right now, and a lot of you folks hearing me in the podcast version, I'm sure you got a different opinion on that. Is everything booming in your life? Because it's certainly not in ours or anybody I know. Everybody I know is really doing all they can to put bread on the table right now. And a lot of these business owners that I talk to, they're feeling it in a bad way, in a very bad way. So I'm hoping and praying that things turn around. But anyway, over at that Biltmore, they had this King Tut exhibit. Now, I wanted to stop in and see it, and I'll tell you the reasons why. Now, as I've told y'all before, I grew up we put the funk in dysfunctional, okay? Mom and dad were in prison. We were raised by our grandmother. I mean, there were 6 boys being raised by a recently widowed grandmother whose daughter was in the slammer. So that's who raised us, but she was phenomenal. She was something else. Anyway, remember, if you're my age, you're going to relate, I think, almost certainly to what I'm about to say. Remember when you were a kid, especially those of us that grew up in the 80s, when you would go on a field trip, you couldn't sleep the night before. At least I couldn't, because we never went anywhere but to church. And I guess grandma was trying to chase the demons out of us or whatever was going on. But the only place we ever went anywhere was to church, maybe the grocery store, and we walked to that. And there was a little corner store called Mary's Store. And I remember 5 and 6 years old walking a mile down to the store to go get whatever grandma needed. And it was completely fine back in that day. But all of us kids, I remember the day before a field trip, it was such a big deal that you couldn't sleep. And I was telling Shane, the food truck guy, earlier when I was talking to him, you're going to need your headphones, honey. I was talking to Shane earlier, and I was saying, when I was a kid, they took us to the Franklin Institute because we grew up in a little town outside of Philly. I mean, Lancaster, Coatesville, people around there will know what I'm talking about. Anyway, they took us on this field trip all the way to Philly, and they took us to the Franklin Institute, and we were going to see the original, I'm talking like straight up artifacts that came from the King Tut's actual tomb. Excuse me. So when I heard they had this at the Biltmore, I'm thinking, oh, shoot, last time I saw this, I was 6 years old. Man, I got to go see this. We go in there, and
they were, you want me to say what that guy
Go
said?
ahead.
100% genuine replicas.
Now, what I'm glad they weren't charging money for this, because I'm telling you what, I would have went Old Testament on that entire place, because I was so aggravated. I'm like, okay, I know your official story. I know all this stuff. I want to see the artifacts. So they make you go through this little maze. You see all this and that, and they give you the story, which I know. I don't know very well, but I know the story, and at least on, how they discovered it and all that. And that in and of itself is a pretty awesome story. I get in there, they got nothing but replicas in there. I'm like, hold on. How was it when I was 5 or 6 years old? I want to say I was 5. I may have been 6, but I want to say it was definitely 5 or 6, because it was either kindergarten or first grade. I saw the real deal at the Franklin Institute in Philly, but they got genuine replicas to try to get people in there. And everybody's walking around this place, and I'm like, am I the only one disappointed?
Yeah, you were the only one because everybody else was like taking pictures as if it was.
I'm like, these are replicas, man. I want to see the real thing. I saw King Tut's mask, the real one, behind glass. You know, I was inches away from it. I mean, you could get really, really close. But I just remember how magical it was as a kid seeing this sort of thing. So, yeah, it seems like everything is a fake these days. But yeah, genuine, what did they call them again? Genuine replicas?
Yeah. It was the way he said it that cracked me up because somebody asked, and I just overheard, they said, is this the real stuff or is it replicas? And the security guide was like, this is 100% genuine real gold replicas.
I'm like, okay.
It's like,
I'm like, all right, man. You mean to tell me they couldn't? I mean, there was not one single artifact in that place that was legit. And I'm like, okay, man, you mean to tell? If I had paid money for this, man, I would.
You did pay money for it. You just didn't pay any extra money for it.
Well, yeah, good thing. But went out there and then we took a brief walk through the Biltmore house, which is kind of, honestly, it's it's a sight to see, no doubt. I mean, it's hard to believe that such opulence existed during the Gilded Age. I mean, it's so hard to believe that people lived with such incredible splendor, even to this day. I mean, it's really something to see. But even through the tour that takes an hour, you're only seeing maybe a third of the house at the most.
You think it's a third?
You may not even see that much of it. But going through there, it is funny, that Halloween room, how they redid the history. If you ever go through there, if you've been through there, you'll realize that Halloween room is the creepiest room, and it's in the basement. They give you the official story of it, and I'm telling you what, it is horse hockey up one side and down the other. There's no way that official story, because...
But even what they tell you is creepy enough, because they say that on New Year's Eve, they have a party there, and they had this cauldron for something. They don't even do a good explanation for. They had some creepy stuff going on. I've never been to a New Year's Eve party where anybody had a cauldron.
No. And then, prior to that, if you saw it when it used to be the old Halloween room, they had the most ghastly apparitions painted on the wall. And they said that they would hand people paint, and they went in there. You could clearly tell that all these things were done by the same hand. And then as you go down the hall, it eventually takes you to the workout room and then the swimming pool. All this stuff is underground. And by the way, there's 2 more levels below that you can't see. So you go down the hallway, and then you come across these, what they call dressing rooms. Do they look like dressing rooms to you?
No.
What do they look like? Like a dungeon?
I wouldn't say a dungeon. It looks like, to me, it looks like there was stuff going on there that I honestly don't even. Honestly, it's difficult to go there because, we listen to, there's a lady that we know that knows a lot of this history, and there was some stuff that she told us. Like, I already had a creepy feeling going there before, but then after talking to this lady and her telling us some of the stuff that goes on there, I don't even want to think about like some of the stuff that those rooms were actually used for. Well,
I'll put it this way. Podesta, folks, I'll give you this much, and I'm not going to talk a whole lot about it, but if you go back and look at the pictures of John Podesta and all that pedophile art that he had, I mean, clearly, some people say that the ones by that swimming pool is at the Biltmore mansion. Is it? I don't know, but go look for yourself and examine it, and you can find out. But it sickens me, like you said, to even think about what might have or likely unfolded. And then just a little side note, we had a security lady when we were walking out of there the first time we ever went in there. She recognized us from YouTube, and she was a fan. She might even be listening now. She had no idea what she just told me. We had just gotten out of there, and we're about ready to leave. And so we're talking, and she says, you guys ought to come back in October. And we're like, what's happening in October? She says, well, that's when you can do the Halloween tour. And I'm like, well, what's different about it? She says, well, there's all these tunnels. She had no idea what she's telling me and how much I've researched this sort of thing. She said, there's tunnels under the Biltmore that lead everywhere, like all the way to Vance Monument, which is all the way downtown Asheville. And I'm thinking, whoa, why would you do that? And then I did ask. And in fact, I asked one of the other people that were working there this time to see what story I would get. I'm like, why on earth would you do that? Why would you have those tunnels going all the way to Asheville? And the official story is for power generation. Okay, I'm a journeyman electrician. And at the time this house was built, I am here to tell you that the transmission they would have used is DC electric, direct current. The problem with direct current is that you can't transmit it over long distances. That's why we use alternating current, okay? I don't mean to bore everybody with this stuff, but the point is, you don't put the transmission, your transmitting ability to transmit the power 3 miles away. Ain't ever going to happen. I've been to other old houses too, and whenever they had these sort of things, they're very close proximity. But they're telling me, oh, it was a transmission. I'm like, nah, y'all better go tell this to somebody else because I know how power is generated, and it doesn't work that way. That's the whole reason, most of the reason we use alternating current these days, because it does enable you to do a lot of different things that you can't do with DC power. Now, DC does have its benefits, especially when it comes to the human body, but it has its benefits, but that ain't one of them. So, and I said, well, how big are these tunnels? She said, well, big enough to drive a side-by-side down through. And I'm like, hold on a minute. You're telling me they got these tunnels? And I'm like, of course I didn't let it all out. And I'm like, hold on a minute. How on earth? Do you know who you're telling this to? And I'm like, do you have any idea? So the ghastly rituals that likely went on in that place, and there is a creepy vibe, not just the gargoyles and all that stuff on the outside, but
no, the fact that it was built at a time. I mean, this isn't creepy. This is just another reason why it pissed me off and I never wanted to go. The fact that it was built when the rest of the country was like struggling at that time. It is just, it just doesn't seem like they should have spent that kind of money on it.
well, that was part of the Gilded Age. I mean, that's why if you go to the Radio City Music Hall in New York City, I mean, you'll see that there's gold leaf all over the ceiling, and you could reach up and touch it. It's that close. I mean, during the Gilded Age, I mean, this is what the Great Gatsby was all about. I mean, it was this opulence beyond imagining, and you had the very, very wealthy, very, very poor, and these people were just part of that age. I mean, it was just understood, and to their credit, I mean, that movie Downton Abbey, not movie, but the series or whatever it was. Yeah, I watched all of it, by the way, back in the day. I thought it was very entertaining, most of it. Parts of it I wasn't crazy about, but anyway, it helps illustrate exactly what that was. There were some very wealthy people that saw their opulence as a means to allow some of the people out there, they gave them jobs. Now, to their credit, there were a lot of people around there, whether it was the blacksmith, the candle maker, the chef, you name it. I mean, the footmen, they had everybody from footmen to valets, you name it, and every single guest there. So to a certain extent, yeah, they were like throwing the crumbs down to the people off the side of the table. So Colleen says, Liz Claiborne had art in her house of younger children. Yeah, there's a lot of this stuff going on out there, and people like Podesta have gotten away with it, and they're probably going to get away with it. They've gotten away with it, and they'll still keep getting away with it based on what I'm seeing right now, because it doesn't appear to me that this administration has any interest at all in trying to bring anybody to justice. And you know what? One joyful thing that I see every single day is, no matter, every single time, Pam Bondi, Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, anybody from the White House press secretary, go to their Twitter account and look at the responses from everybody out there. The response to every single one of them is, yeah, great. Now, what's up with the Epstein files? Oh, you arrested all these people. You captured all these guns. Okay, well, what? Or Dan Bongino having the audacity to say, nobody's above the law. And then everybody writes on there, except for wealthy Epstein clients. So yeah, a lot of that stuff. I mean, I didn't mean to go down this rabbit hole. It wasn't really what I intended to talk about, but yeah, I think it's important. Everybody seems to think, and I don't know why, and even as a kid, I didn't understand it, why everybody seems to think that evil was excised from this world the day Adolf Hitler died. And by the way, he didn't die in that bunker. I think that's pretty well proven these days. Or when Stalin died, you want to talk about how many people Hitler supposedly killed. Look how many Stalin killed. And then nobody ever talks about Mao Zedong, the world's biggest mass murderer in history. Probably killed 100 to 120 million, but we only talk about 6 million. You ever wonder why? Huh. Yeah, so there's a lot of weird, crazy things going on in this world, but for some reason, especially, and I don't mean to offend the baby boomers that are listening here, but I don't know why it is so incredibly difficult for baby boomers to even consider this stuff. They won't even examine it. And I'm talking, if I name some of the ones that I know of personally, I mean, pretty well-known ones. And like I said, the kind of person people that if I were to mention their names, I guarantee everybody in this audience would know it. You'd be like, what? They can't see this? But unfortunately, they can't, most of them. Now, there are some wide awake baby boomers, but I'd say 90% of the ones I've met are definitely in the matrix and won't even consider this stuff, whether it's no matter the regime. So anyway, other things we got going on here. I probably ought to do a show on talking about a lot of this stuff that's just in and of itself, but there wasn't a rabbit hole I intended to go down, but hey, that's the nature of live radio. We go wherever it goes. Yeah, my father won't see it. Renewed Homestead. Denise says, my father won't see it, unfortunately. No, same with mine, same with hers. And no matter how much, there was a first-class charlatan by the name of Lamar Keene that said, no amount of evidence can shatter a faith consciously based on a lie. And that sums up, I would say, 90 to 95% of the baby boomers I see. And I for the life of me, the generation ahead of them, like your grandmother.
Yeah, that's what just amazes me the most is the generation that raised them is wide awake. And
their kids are wide awake. Some of them, a lot of them.
Yeah, some of their kids are awake, but yeah.
But for some reason, I don't know what it is, whether it's some curse among that generation. They just won't see it. All right. So let me cheer things up a little bit. But anyway, I don't know how I got down that rabbit hole, but we'll call it entertainment. All right. So we fenced in my puppy. Finally, there was a little gap at the top. We didn't think he would just keep running off the doggone mountain. There's this area that's literally a cliff. And to go down certain parts of this property, you have got to rappel. And how he was getting out, I could not, for the longest time, I was thinking, oh, he's not going to manage that. But anyway, we got that part fenced in, and it looks like his butt is contained because he'll get out and then he'll go gallivant around. Remember, folks, these fences that we have around here are not to keep the animals in. It's not even to keep the predators out. It's to keep the livestock guardian dog on his job. And one of my biggest pet peeves out there are people that just let their dogs run wild everywhere, just unchecked. I mean, tearing up other people's stuff in the whole 9 yards. But when it comes to a livestock dog, especially a Great Pyrenees, now other breeds are not going to be this way, but they sent a coyote out there, they're going to chase this thing for miles sometimes.
And it doesn't even have to be a coyote. If there's deer, he's off chasing them.
Yeah, and if he gets off the property, so I've given this example before. It's like this. I want his focus, laser beam focused on what he's doing, and that's with the sheep. Chickens I don't have to worry about because they're put up at night, and nothing's getting through their chicken house, their mobile chickshaw. So I don't have to worry about them. Sheep are my number one concern. So I want his focus not chasing coyotes that led him away somewhere so the other ones can come in and kill my stock, but to leave him focused there. So that's why, even during the day, that's why I need his butt focused on his task, and that is to guard those sheep. And that's all he needs to do at night. He's got his first general order. I will guard everything within the limits of my post and quit my post only when properly relieved. So that's exactly what we use him for. So that's the biggest thing. Remember and I'm going to say it again. Let me say it a different way. It's like, okay, imagine, take any one of you in the audience right now. Somebody said, okay, I want you to take this M16 and I want you to defend this apartment building. Pretty tough to do, right? But now all of a sudden, we're going to put you in this efficiency apartment. Now your job is to guard that efficiency apartment. That's the same thing with the dog. He's not very effective when he's gallivanting all over these mountains. but he's pretty darn effective when we got him within that little cell block. Well, it's not, I hate to put it that way. When he's laser focused in the area he's supposed to be. So that's why it was so important. And plus, I can't have the greatest Pyrenees getting hit out there. So we can't have that. So speaking of the sheep, they are now ordinarily this time of summer, if we didn't have so much moisture here, and judging by what I'm hearing out there, a lot of other folks aren't getting it. It's been raining practically every single day. If we didn't have so much moisture, I would have them on 2 to maybe 3 day rotations. Remember, when your forage is growing fast, you move them fast. When it's growing slow, you move them slow. For at least a month and a half of this year, I mean, if it would have been a normal year, I would be down to moving them every other day. Okay, I just started moving them every other day, and that is rare. So they've been on 1 day moves every single day since spring. They've been on 1 day moves every single day since spring. Now I just scaled them back because I got them in the Silvopasture area, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit, and how you can make that as a serious advantage for your place. But anyway, got them in there, and they're on a 2 day move. I could put them on 3 day if I want, but I can get away with 2 because the less I let them eat it to the ground. Remember, you want to keep that soil cool, so don't leave them out there forever in a day, and definitely no more than 3, because that's when you start having parasite problems. So 3 is about the limit. I'll let any animal be in one spot unless they're in a deep bedding system. That's a whole nother conversation altogether. But anyway, they're out there on a 2 day paddock, and that's extremely rare this time of year. I would have started 2 day moves a month and a half ago, but because of all the moisture, which I guess I'm not going to complain about, but I know other people have reason to. And we're going to talk about that here in a second. But I also wanted to point out, I come across pretty harsh sometimes on people that ride, every time you turn around on Twitter, and I know some of it's contrived and controlled and whatever. When you see all these thugs bragging about all the, I know people legitimately struggling. They're out there busting their butt in their gardens every day, working a farm, doing everything else. And I'm seeing these thugs out here bragging about, look at all these groceries I got with my EBT card. And I got to thinking, I saw that video. I'm like, man, I got to turn this off. And then what's the first thing I see? I look up and I see these hummingbirds on the front porch.
Oh, Billy,
they're the biggest hood rats. Hummingbirds are the biggest hood rats in the animal kingdom. Seriously.
No, not even in the same.
They will fight over a feeder that they didn't even put up.
They're much more pleasant to listen to.
Yeah, I'd rather deal with hummingbirds than hood rats any day. There's a joke in there somewhere. So anyway, yeah, I was just thinking about the hood rat of the animal kingdom has got to be the hummingbird. They're sitting there fighting each other over a feeder that they didn't even provide. Yeah, I love hummingbirds too, Denise. They are beautiful. That's why I feed them. I mean, that's why I do it. So my little welfare hummingbirds out there. Yeah. Anyway, just got off a 2 day fast. So I'm doing pretty good. Michelle did a 3 day fast last week. How did you feel afterwards?
I felt good. My only concern really was moving the sheep tractor, because it's in a part of the pasture that's the most difficult. It's like all uphill and it's not even ground and there's stumps and all kinds of stuff. But it was fine.
So I'm starting
energy.
Well, that's one of those things. I did a 24-hour fast last week, and then I just came off of it this morning. A 2 day fast. I'm trying to get myself back into a good fasting regimen. I just feel better when I do it, folks. You might give it a shot and see how you feel. Just give it a shot. I mean, just try, ease into it. I mean, there was a time not long ago when I'm examining, of course, all this circadian biology and all these other things that seem to make absolute sense to me. And I've never felt better, to be honest with you. I will say, though, when I first started doing it, it was like my body was trying to adjust. And when it did, it was like, okay, it's off to the races now. So I feel great. But if you haven't tried it, folks, it's an opportunity. Even Jesus said in the Bible, when you fast, it was presupposing that you would, that when you fast, So I was like, okay, well, there's only one thing I think Jesus, Buddha, and Confucius ever agreed on, and that was the benefits of fasting. So let me give this stuff a shot. You just feel your body's going to engage in some serious autophagy. You're going to get rid of a lot of those dead cells, depending on how long you do it. But even if you're accustomed to eating 3 squares a day, just maybe remove a meal and see how you do. And then you just kind of go from there and then ease it out. Not talking to anybody into it. I'm just saying, I know I feel like $1,000,000 every single time I do it. So I'm going to I'm going to at least fast for, I don't know. For a while there, I was doing 2 24-hour days, 2 24-hour fasts per week, in addition to a 36-hour. That might be a little too much. I'd say 1 24, maybe 2 a week is probably sufficient. But I got to push things and find out how far I can take it. And plus, I wanted to know exactly, like Michelle was, like, how many days can I go doing chores without eating anything? But I got to say, I'm doing better. I'm doing a lot better on these fasts than I ever did before, because I got different tools and I'm doing better. So Redemption Shield, 10% off with promo code PERMA. Remember, y'all, when I do this show, I'm G'd up from the feet up, but my companion here is not. My feet are on the grounding mat. Where are yours, honey?
They're on the grounding mat.
No, they're on my cord. But anyway, if you want one, Redemption Shield, they got a lot of good grounding and shielding stuff over there. 10% off with promo code PERMA. Wave Watch. Yeah, you want that thing on when you go to a Bigfoot festival, because you don't know how many of these people just might just run right into you holding some. Yeah, we did get a funnel cake out there with some whack.
With some red dye number 40 on it.
Yeah, that was odd. Yeah, but who doesn't love a funnel cake? I wish I can get my hands on an Indian taco, but not a lot of folks don't know what that is. But anyway.
You could make one.
Yeah, I need to. Got plenty of fat down there. But anyway, Wave Watch, Billy 100 will get you $100 off. You can use that thing for so many things. And we both of us do. We share one. And I think I need to get you your own, because that thing covers up your whole wrist. The new model is not quite so large, but the one I have, it's the older model. Hey, it gets the job done, and I love it. So, yeah, I don't leave the house without it every single time. East Tennessee Homestead Alliance Festival, that's coming up September 12th and 13th in Knoxville, Tennessee. So be there, be square. I'm definitely going to be there, and I hope to see a lot of you guys out there as well. Now, I'm going to kind of run through this good news here, because I don't want to waste a whole lot of time talking about some of this Silvopasture stuff that we're going to talk about in the main event here. Once again, folks, if you're here, hit that thumbs up, tell everybody we're live so they can start suppressing us like they always do. So real quick, broccoli, more effective than ever than chemo, radiation at beating the big C. Yeah, can't even say that on here. How about that? And it cuts the risk at least by 20% just by eating broccoli. I would probably put an addendum on that and say it might want to be in season, because that's another thing I'm trying to do, is eat more in season, as best we can. Look, we live in the 21st century. All of us are just going to do the best we can. All right, the other good news, green peas, a nutrient-packed source of plant protein for vegans and vegetarians. Now, I only said that for you vegans and vegetarians living out there that are listening to this show, because I know there's a few of you out there. Turns out when you check out this article that you're going to find out that a lot of really, if you're bitterly opposed to eating meat, look, that's all well and good for those so inclined, but I'm not that person. But if you are that person, peas are really one of the best ways. Hemp protein is really good too. Look, I'm going to eat the animal. So you can go ahead and do whatever you need to do. And then finally, eat the steak. Study shows that plant protein is not healthier than animal protein. Tons and tons of studies out there to improve it, especially when it comes to the winter. If you look at your circadian biology and what is available and what's growing in the winter, well, mostly you would be eating meat. Okay. If you didn't have all the modern conveniences right now, you wouldn't be growing things. You would eat things that you put away, that you canned, or that you fermented, or things like potatoes and, storage crops, things you can put away, things like that, beans. Those would be the typical things. But outside of that, if it were available, you would be eating meat. So it's a way healthier protein. And
it's also, animal protein is also a complete protein, and the plant proteins aren't. You have to combine them with other, like rice and beans, to get complete protein. So then your carb is like through the roof just to get the amount of protein that you need.
See, not the smartest co-host for nothing, y'all. So thanks for dropping that out there, honey. I did not know that. I did
Yes, you
not know
did.
that. No, I didn't. I really didn't. I guess that's why, man, I guess, okay. So all you vegans out there, knock yourself out. I'm going to eat some animal. Yeah, that's how I roll. All right. So with that said, we're going to go to my man, Eric Sider.
Hey, Eric Sider here with your Pimpcast tip of the day. Today's tip, primary nutrients for plants. The three main primary nutrients for plants are the familiar NPK, nitrogen, phosphate, and potassium. These can all be sourced naturally. Nitrogen comes from trees and plants that have bacterial colonies on their roots that fix nitrogen into the soil. With annuals, we simply wait for the plants to die and the roots release the nitrogen into the soil. But with perennials, we have the potential of adjusting this cycle. The basics of adjusting this cycle is that nodules on the roots provide nitrogen in exchange for starch produced from photosynthesis. Then, using techniques like pollarding and coppicing, which cause a self-pruning of the root system, the plants naturally provide nitrogen in the soil, as well as other useful functions like high-quality mulch from chop and drop pruning and forage or food. Phosphate is said to be deficient worldwide, but it is also something that can be supplied easily and naturally. Bird manure is very rich in phosphate, so poultry and abundant wild birds can provide it. There are also certain trees, palms and casuarina, that fix phosphate into the soil, much like nitrogen-fixing plants do nitrogen. The difference here is that it's a fungal relationship with the roots rather than a bacterial one. Nevertheless, the exchange is similar, and that means that the detritus from these trees is also rich in phosphate. Potassium is much easier. It is present in all green material, so just by making sure that green organic matter has a place in the garden system, potassium levels should be sufficient. Otherwise, seagrass and residue from fish, specially processed seawater, and rock dust add lots of minerals to the soil. Livestock can also be fed mineral supplements as part of their health routine, and it will come through in their manure. For that matter, composting systems and vermiculture also provide an abundance of minerals for quality soil. You can find me on YouTube and Instagram at Eric Sider. If you're in need of permaculture t-shirts, the official pimp gear of the Pimpcast, or remote permaculture consultation and design, head over to ericsider.com. And for more information on my permaculture community group, head over to permaculturefairoaks.org.
That's my dog. Boy, that was a really, really cool one there. Man, the only thing I would add as far as an addendum is it was once believed, and it still is. I mean, it's still debatable out there. Some people think that when you prune, it's been long believed that the trees will, so you got a tree out there, you prune it. People think that the roots will self-prune themselves all the way back. Now, that's not necessarily what everybody believes. Now it's believed by some, not everybody. And it really doesn't matter which end it comes down. I'm just adding an addendum here. There's another theory out there that they believe that the roots aren't exactly pruning themselves. What they're doing is putting out tons and tons of exudates to the microbes in the soil, the bacteria and the fungi, to say, okay, boys, we had a catastrophic attack up top. I need y'all to go work. And they give them a shopping list and they go out and get it. They're like, okay, bacteria, fungi, you want to eat? Well, you better get me what I need. So and I remember Dr. Lane thought that the self-pruning thing was unlikely because trees would just fall over if they did that every single time. So I don't know that we know which side it comes down. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it is extremely beneficial to your soil. So who really cares how you get in there? I just thought I'd add that addendum in there because I don't know which one it is. So let's say it does self-prune and it's putting biomass in the soil. Okay, wonderful. Let's say it doesn't. And it's telling the exudates, or basically the things coming off that tree, grass, whatever the case may be, it doesn't matter. Okay, I need you to go to work. It doesn't matter. You're still improving the soil every single time you do it, as long as you don't overdo it. So you don't want to prune back more than a third of a tree in a year, unless it's a black locust or some tree that you're going to coppice anyway. Yeah, you can take all of it for the most part. and it'll still come back. Too bad fruit trees don't grow like the ones that we don't necessarily want a lot of. But anyway, good, awesome stuff as always, my man Eric. So EMP Shield, $50 off with promo code PERMA. Your number one threat, believe it or not, is not necessarily EMP. It's a lightning strike or something like it, or a surge through the line, whatever the case may be. Well, if anything gets Kentucky fried past your EMP Shield that you put on your house, they're going to cover you for 25 G's. They even got them for your car. They got them for your solar systems. They got them for everything. And they are the only ones that stand behind the product. That's why EMP Shield did not reach out to me. I reached out to them, as I've done with all of my advertisers out there. When I see something that's good, folks, you would not even believe how much people solicit me all kinds of things to try or whatever. And 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. Well, so far it's been 10 times out of 10. If I know it's good, I go out there and buy it and it works, I'll let you know about it. And then I'll make a deal to where we can somehow, if it's good enough and I feel like I want to put my name on it, then I'll let you know about it. EMP Shield was my first one I've ever done that with, right behind Hickory Ridge Soaps. So $50 off with promo code PERMA. So Silvopasture Systems, turning trees into animal powerhouses. So I guess we better first describe, because not everybody's going to know what Silvopasture is. So in a nutshell, is the integration of your trees, your animals, your livestock, pasture, all into one. Okay. Now, what motivated me to talk about this? Well, it has to do with the last video that I just put out. After being on in timeout on YouTube, for the reasons that I spoke about earlier, I really felt, because that video, they're never going to give us any kind of distribution out there. I get that, because I say too many things they don't want me to say. And I get it. And I wear t-shirts they don't want me to wear. Yeah, they know what we're wearing now. So because of that, it's never going to be widely distributed. But I can't tell you folks how important it is to at least have that feather in your cap. So obviously trees produce. Okay. Grass, weeds take over the whole 9 yards. You have so many examples of Silvopasture out there, some intentional, some not. But in just about every single example I've ever seen of it, I've never seen a Silvopasture system where I thought, man, this is exactly the way I want it. Have you?
No, I did see one in Texas, and I think an important point to make is Silvopasture, its ultimate goal is to have 2 crops from one field. So let's say you have a field, right, or more, but let's say you have a pecan orchard. Well, while you're waiting for those pecans to produce an income, you can run livestock through there in the meantime. So, or if you've got cattle in a field, you can put in a fruit or a nut crop, to get like another source of income. But there is one, I did see a very good example of it. It was when we were living in Texas. It was on the way to
I remember
Shreveport. Now. They had pecans and they were running cattle through them.
Yeah, when I say I haven't found one that I thought I loved personally, I'm a bigger fan of the way that we like to do it, where the animals are running in lanes in between. I haven't seen anybody that said, okay, I've never seen anybody outside of us do it in an orchard setting or a food forest setting. I've never seen anybody do that. And the mutual benefit of being able to do that is enormous. Think about how many farmers you got out there. Okay, you got one crop, and that crop is your cows. Okay, if you're grass-raised, grass-fed, grass-finished, you're looking at 28 months before you turn a profit on that cow. That's over 2 years.
And if you have, let's just say your goal is to start a pecan orchard, you're looking at decades before those trees produce. I don't remember the exact, but it's a pretty long time. I mean, but I don't think you see that as much here as you used to in Texas and Louisiana.
Yeah, but okay, take those places, for example. Okay, you got this giant field out there. You could easily put in a swale if you needed to, and then a lot of those places could use them. It's going to capture more water every single time it rains. It's going to put it down in the soil. And then you could have these lanes where, okay, take, for example, Texas. Okay, I just talked to everybody in the previous video in the short that I did because they kind of go hand in hand. I wanted you to think about this. That's why I put them out in so close proximity to one another. So on one tree alone, just one tree, 400 pounds worth of peaches coming off that one tree. Okay, that's pretty impressive. Now imagine, and then what are peaches going right now? $6
Yeah, like $6.
$6 a pound. Okay, ordinarily you would have been waiting forever and a day just to get a crop of meat off that field. But just by adding trees in there, you are, give it time, you will be adding shade to those cows, sheep, chickens, whatever the case you got running through there.
Which, yes, is another added benefit, because if you see a lot of pastures, there's only shade around the edges. We just drove by one pasture. I don't remember where it was, but it was just the other day, where all the cows were huddled up in one corner of the pasture.
It was at the Biltmore.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, because there was no shade in any of the rest of the pasture.
Right. And a hot cow is not putting on weight. No, it's not. In fact, Greg Judy's written extensively on it. A very hot cow, one that doesn't do well in the heat, is not putting on weight. So think about it. Okay, it would be wonderful. What if you had that overstory in the form of, let's say, a pecan? Let's say it was walnut. Maybe not a whole lot of walnuts out there because they're going to be a little bit allelopathic. Let's say you got an overstory of, let's just say pecan, just for easy reference. Let's say you got an understory, and now you got apples, peaches, pears, you name it, and not all the same variety. And think about it. Get an early, mid, and late of every apple, early, mid, and late of every peach, early, mid, and late of every, you get the point. Okay, so you run them along that swale. Given time, they're going to provide shade as well. Not as much as that pecan, but that pecan is going to take a long time before you get a crop out of it. So you got that crop. And then you got your shrub layer, which you ought to be putting in anyway. Okay, you could be putting in some sea buckthorn out there as your nitrogen fixer, as Eric was just talking about a moment ago. It's going to put those nitrogen fixing nodules down in the soil to the benefit of everything else around it. But what else could you put out there? A whole lot of blueberries, huh?
Yep.
So there's another crop. You know what blueberries are going for? A pint? Do you have any idea? I don't know how many farmers I know of that we're all missing the boat. We could be putting in tons of swales out there, capturing all the water you could ever put in the landscape. I mean, getting that done and then running your cows in and out of these orchard and fruit systems, which is really Silvopasture, except most people think of it in, like Michelle's talking about, you got them among a bunch of oaks. And that's not necessarily a bad thing either, because they'll eat some of that stuff and it's going to help with deworming and stuff like that. But let's say you don't have any of those things. I remember being at Greg Judy's place and him talking about trying to do something like this. It was ill-conceived and it didn't quite go the way that he intended because somebody didn't run the swales right. I guess he brought in the wrong person. But folks, I'm telling you, Silvopasture could be the make or break. Like I said, off of 400. Okay, so you just on that one tree, the peach tree, you got 400 pounds on one tree at $6 a pound. That's $2,400 on one tree that I spent $19 for. You seeing where I'm going with this? Okay, one tree. Now, what if you had 10 other trees? Do you think I could even, because it's better than organic? Look, if you look up the organic standards,
they're dropping by the day.
it was never wonderful to begin with. But look at what they're allowed to call organic. There are no drugs in any form outside of what they spray from the sky, which, by the way, I didn't even cover. I'll come to that hopefully in a minute. There's no anything on these things. So if they're charging $6, if I wanted, do you think I could charge 7 or 8? I probably could, but I wouldn't, because I also think, I mean, and this is my own ethics, if they're charging 6 for whatever, I may charge 5 just to show them what's possible, because it means more to me to be able to encourage other people to become farmers. So I'm going to say, look, you can go there and buy that lousy peach that, by the way, when they picked it, it was 3 weeks from being ripe. They probably got it from Central America. They sent it up here. If you're eating it out of season, who even knows when they sent it? So you can know your customers a little bit more. Go to the farmer's market and make $2,400 on those 400 pounds of peaches, and that's just one tree. Okay, coming up right now on these pears, I probably got 200 pounds of pears that are out there. Better than, and of course, I'm going to pick them at peak ripeness. I'm not going to pick them weeks early. Every apple you go to the store and buy, what is that thing, about a year old?
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a year old. It's a year old. I just had a brain. I was going to say I had a brain fart, but I really didn't. Ben texted me earlier saying something about going to the orchard. So that's the cool thing about going to a local orchard. They didn't pick them a month or a year or 6 months early. Okay, you're there. You're able to get these things. Not saying that they don't do that sort of thing and head it on down the road, but honestly, you're getting it at peak freshness. And that means something. It should mean something. But when you combine, while you're sitting there waiting on that cow crop, how many times do you go out there and all you see is cows? Okay. If they were to take a little more time, you could take those cows and then right behind them or with them, you could run the sheep, you could run them together. No harm in that. It could be a flirt. And then to break up the parasite cycle, you can run ducks and chickens. Okay, there's another profit right there. I mean, you can run ducks and chickens. You can run turkeys. You can run all these things right after one another. So we seem to think, and I'm thinking, man, how many of us are really missing the boat on here? And what inspired me to do this was thinking, okay, I got all this work I need to do down in that food forest, because we've been so darn busy and still dealing with the effects of that hurricane that happened a while back, still catching up on things. I haven't had a chance to do any of the pruning down there. I was going to let them in there next year. I had no intention of letting them go through there this year. Folks, they did such a magnificent job that I don't think I'm going to do it any other way.
It would have to be like later in the season though.
Yeah, I mean,
because there's some things that they eat that I wouldn't necessarily want them to eat early in the season.
And that's the best time to do it. So when are you going to do most of your pruning anyway? At the end of the season? In most cases, not every time, but in most cases. So near the end of the season, which it is for us, a lot of those things have already done what they're going to do. And so now they're going to eat what hit the ground. They're going to eat what's on, they're going to prune everything from about, 45 inches down, which is what I want done anyway. Can't leave them in there forever. And depending on the breed, they might wind up girdling things, but I will do a future video to show folks how to avoid that sort of thing of happening. But they saved me so much work and put all their excrement out there. Now, of course, we did have to cover up the blueberries. There will come a time when these blueberries get tall enough that I will allow them to go in there. Silver Sage says, Billy mentioned Jack Cruz before the glasses, Dr. Well,
somebody asked where you can get your glasses.
Yeah, go check out Dr. Jack Cruz. You can probably find some reference over there. There's another brand that I have up here, but I don't have them in the room with me. Sorry about that. But anyway, when it comes to all the things you could be running through those systems, how many people out there are running cows, even doing it very holistically, but have to provide mobile shade? Well, you don't have to do that in the Silvopasture system. The animals they're able to constantly put on more and more and more weight because they are able to get everything they need, including shade. And look, we're in this to make money. A lot of us, I mean, we're farming to try to put bread on our own tables and also in the tables of, customers out there. So, instead of having to provide mobile shade, you can use so many of these things that way. So folks, instead of just I can't even tell you how much happier the animals are when they are able to work in that environment. And that means a lot too. You want happy animals. Anything else you want to add to this?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I didn't want to go too long in the tooth because I did want to circle back on one thing, but folks, don't overlook Silvopasture. Water retention, sunlight. I mean, so many different options out there, and nearly everybody seems to be missing the boat on it. It's just going to take a little bit more in terms of management, but if you can do it right, go back and think about one peach tree with $2,400 that I spent $19 for. You think that thing's paid for itself over and over and over again? Yeah, and it's passive food production. You do very, very little. You spend almost no time at all pruning your food forest. or your orchards. You spend very little time. Think about how much time you have to spend with your animals every day and how little you spend with your trees. So think about that. It's passive food production, not only for you, but also for a lot of other systems out there. So
There's also the possibility of growing like medicinal herbs that require shade, like bloodroot and golden seal. I know you can grow. They require shade. They do best in woodlands. So you'd have to plan it right to not let your animals, to let them get established and not let the animals graze them. But let's just say, I mean, you don't have to graze sheep and cattle through it. You could do, something else, whether it's chickens or ducks.
or you could have sheep and cat. You can have all your cattle in the world. Just put fencing on it.
Yeah,
If you
you
had
would just have to plan it out, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, you just
If
don't let
that's
them
what
get.
you want to do.
Just don't give them access. Just don't give them access. And then every time it rains, because you have it on contour, every time it rains, all of their poop and everything else goes down into the ditch in the swale. And you're only improving the system every single event. How cool is that? But a lot of us are kind of missing the boat on this. So I want you to consider that in some of your designs out there. And honestly, if you can work it out, get a permaculture design certificate. We talked about the one they have online at School of Permaculture. That's a way to get one there. It's going to help you avoid a lot of mistakes, but even still then, I would still think about getting a consultation, because if it's your own property, it's going to be nearly impossible for you to look at this thing dispassionately and ask yourself very, very critical questions. So you want to get a discerning eye in there. So if you need one of those, go check out William, the permaculture consultant. My son, he has a YouTube channel that you ought to check out anyway. So he'll be back with us hopefully next time. One last thing I wanted to point out there, folks, and this is, I meant to hit it earlier on, but I'm going to go ahead and hit it right now. If you haven't seen it, Glenn Beck, please don't hold it against me. Look, y'all, I listen to my enemies too. Glenn Beck, who I know to be a complete polecat. I don't trust him as far as I can throw him, but I listen to a lot of people I don't trust because I want to know what my enemy thinks. She can't put up with it, but I listen to NPR every day.
I couldn't listen. I can't stand NPR before they became what they were. I don't know.
Well, they always were this. They were just less overt about it.
Well, okay, but I couldn't stand NPR 20 years ago.
I always liked it because it was always soothing, the NPR voice. And I knew what I was getting there, but I was like, okay, I'll listen to it because I want to know I want to know their lies. So I listen to a lot of people I don't like. And because I want to know what my enemy thinks. Okay, that's Sun Tzu 101, know your enemy. So Glenn Beck, and you can go to his X account and you can find it. He had Lee Zeldin on from the EPA. Probably only one of the only marginal honest people I can see in the current administration. They all seem like sold out polecats to Israeli interest or whatever the case. But anyway, he was on there. And he's the leader of the EPA. And I couldn't even believe that he openly stated what he did. Because Glenn Beck asked him, and I couldn't even believe Glenn Beck, knowing that he's bought and paid for, I couldn't even believe he asked about chemtrails. And Lee Zeldin responded that, yeah, it's happening. We got a lot of government money going after it. It's happening. It's happening. This is for all you people out there that tell me that I'm out of my mind, that I'm saying things, that these are not chemtrails. Your EPA commissioner just openly admitted it. Openly. And he went on to say, now this is just one of the components, they are dropping sulfur dioxide, which of course turns into acid rain. So, and that's just one of the things that they're dropping out there. Just one that he openly admitted to. Remember the last thing that Julian Assange said before they locked him up? Remember what he talked about? He talked about this magic dust. Yeah, it was a dust that he talked about. Nobody ever stops to think about, what did he say before they locked him up? He was talking about the nanoparticles that they were dropping in the chemtrails. And all of a sudden, that's when he got locked up. And of course, you've not heard anything out of him lately. So Lee Zeldin openly admitted that they are poisoning us from the sky. Does the Trump administration care?
No. But also, if they're admitting that just tells me that there's a whole lot. Number one, they've been doing that for I don't know how many years, 50 years, dropping. So that just tells me that they're so far beyond that they'll admit to that, because it's decades old what they're doing, and their technology that they're using now is so far past that they're like, yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you all the other stuff we're doing to you.
You know, like down in Florida, you know, they just put in a law saying, hey, we can't do this. They're still doing it worse than ever. And in fact, adding the NextRad radar towers, I mean, people are complaining in a big way down in Florida. I was just listening to a program earlier where they were talking about, man, there was a lady that went down there from North Carolina, said, man, it is so bad. She was on vacation, says, I got to get back home. As soon as she gets into North Carolina, all of it goes away. They're using these NextRad towers in conjunction with folks. I mean, I don't understand how so many people can believe we landed on the moon, but this is a bridge too far. You're telling me that you think that they can't, when we have, I mean, did you see that quote anomaly that happened the other day, that big donut in the sky? If you don't believe me, go check out my X account at Permapasture's Farm or at Permapastures on X. Look at what I posted. I'll repost it for those that are going to check it out. There is literally a donut. Did you see that one?
Yeah, I did.
It is a donut on the radar, and then it magically dissipates. But you got Lee Zeldin openly admitting that this stuff is happening, and it's getting worse.
Yeah, and the worst is the coal fly ash that Dr. Marvin Herndon has if you do a search, you'll pull him up. He's done a ton of research into the crap that they're putting in the sky, and that's what he found. That's what he found the components for, which is a toxic soup, radioactive chemical soup.
Yeah, so it's basically the same crap that when I worked in all those coal-fired powerhouses, all that fly ash that comes out of there, well, they got to do something with it. And they can't just put it in a landfill somewhere. So why not just dump it on everybody? This is, folks, we're just giving you, we're only wetting your beaks right now, but I'm telling you this to make you aware. This is something I wanted to cover early on, and I know this wasn't really what we were going to talk about initially, but man, you're either an activist or an inactivist. Either way, you're involved. So you better stand up and start kicking some butt, because your kids are breathing this crap. You know, all the schools out there, right off when COVID happened, all the schools now have 5G out there, even though we know what it's doing. There's that Matt Van Swole who's talking about, every time you turn around, he's talking about his Tesla and all this other stuff. He's gained some kind of notoriety in Asheville. And I'm like, dude, you ever go into one of those Teslas with a meter? I haven't even been in the car with a meter. On the outside of it, it was pegging my meter that detects RF. You are being Kentucky fried in these cars. What do you think's happening with all these kids with unmyelinated brains that are sitting in these classrooms being bombarded with 5G with no grounding? What do you think's happening? Is it any wonder that these kids don't know what planet they're on? But you add that to what Lee Zeldin just admitted. And of course, if you think Fixed News is going to cover this, or MSNBC, or the prostitutes over at CNN, if you think any of those people are going to cover it, they're not. So folks, I'm telling you, because you got to tell other people around you. It was right there on Glenn Beck. They openly admitted that they are chemtrailing, dropping poison in the air, and still nobody cares. Nobody in this administration cares. Trump could sign an executive order tomorrow ending it. When he was here in North Carolina, down in Swannanoa, we were being chemtrailed. You can go back and look at the day and look at my X post. We were being chemtrailed to oblivion the day he was here. To oblivion. And still nothing there. And of course, I do find it curious that when they were letting people go up to the podium and Trump was standing there, there wasn't one single person from Swannanoa. You know why? Because every last one of those people out there would have told you, like they told me, that this was no accident, that it was all engineered. And yeah, the Trump administration does that too. They brought in people from other places that weren't even near that place, but they didn't get a single person from Swannanoa where they were doing the filming. They just wanted a photo op to show you how bad it was. But of course, they trucked in people from other places that were not hit like this one. But that's another story altogether. Look, you can put your trust in this administration if you want to, but here it is. You have the EPA commissioner openly admitting that they're dropping poison from the sky, and that idiot he is an idiot. Yep. You want to see a real cage match? Put me in a ring with Glenn Beck. I got reasons to
That's
despise
not
that
be
guy.
a real. Not going to be real.
Well, yeah, he's a real polecat, folks. I know stuff about that guy you may not know, but anyway, even that idiot when Zeldin says that, he starts laughing. I'm like, what are you laughing at, you idiot? What are you laughing at? No laughing matter, y'all. This is about as serious as it gets. So, all right. I guess I beat that horse about as much as it can be beat, but I did not want to get out here without you folks checking that out. Listen to the interview. Believe me, I can't even believe I'm telling people to go listen to Glenn Beck. But go to his X account. It's like the second or third post on there right now. You can listen to it. And you're hearing just a brief synopsis of a bigger picture, but you get the point there when you check it out. They're openly telling you. So all of you boomers out there telling me that I'm nuts, that this has always happened. No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't. And in fact, they've gone back and put it in all the Disney movies. I'm dead serious. They're actually putting chemtrails in the Disney animation movies. I kid you not. Just to make it look like this is normal. Yeah, so if this was so normal, why wasn't it back then? There were no more puffy clouds in The Lion King. So anyway, want to thank everybody out there. Want to give a hat tip once again to Renewed Homestead for out there, making sure everything goes well in the chat. Want to give a shout out to everybody that checked this out tonight. And look, y'all, things are crazy. They're getting crazier. You know the deal. Till next time, stay alert.
Stay alive.
Roots that run deep, wisdom from soil, permaculture dreams. Let the ideas unfold. I'm moving with the truth. Feeling nature's food. Who's got the answers? All we need to do. Listen to the earth, they got us. Let's see the change. Watch the world spin. From the smallest sprout to harmony begin in the cycle of life. For the magic's alive. To the